it in a jar and forget about it, but what they don't realize is that certain 1987 P quarters have sold for absolutely mind-blowing prices, with the rarest specimens fetching up to a staggering $267 million in the collector's market. Yes, you heard that right, $267 million for a coin that was minted just a few decades ago. A coin that could be hiding in your couch cushions, your car's cup holder, or that old piggy bank you've had since childhood. Before we dive deeper into what makes this particular quarter so incredibly valuable, I want you to do something for me. Stick around until the very end of this video because after we uncover the secrets of the 1987 P quarter dollar, I'm going to reveal another quarter that's worth even more, and then we'll finish with a coin so rare and so valuable that it will leave you absolutely speechless. But I'm not going to tell you the exact values just yet because I want you to experience the same shock and awe that collectors feel when they discover these treasures. So trust me, you're going to want to stay till the end. Now, let's talk about the 1987 P quarter dollar and why it has become one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history. The year 1987 was significant for many reasons. The stock market experienced Black Monday, the world was in the midst of the Cold War, and pop culture was dominated by icons like Michael Jackson and Madonna. But for coin collectors, 1987 was special for an entirely different reason. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the P Mint mark, produced millions upon millions of quarters that year, and under normal circumstances, these coins would be worth exactly 25 cents. Nothing more, nothing less. However, the United States Mint is run by human beings, and human beings make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes create opportunities for unimaginable wealth. In 1987, something extraordinary happened at the Philadelphia Mint, something that would forever change the lives of those lucky enough to discover it. During the minting process, a small number of quarters were struck with errors that made them incredibly rare and valuable. One of the most famous errors associated with the 1987 P quarter dollar is the double die obverse error, where the design on the front of the coin, including the word Liberty and the date 1987, was struck twice, creating a doubled image that is visible to the naked eye or under slight magnification. This doubling effect is not just a minor imperfection. It's a dramatic and unmistakable feature that collectors go absolutely crazy for. Another error that has been discovered on some 1987 P quarters is the off-center strike, where the coin was not properly aligned in the minting press, resulting in part of the design being cut off or misaligned. Off-center strikes can range from subtle to extreme, and the more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin becomes. Then there's the wrong planchet error, where a quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, such as a dime or a nickel, creating a coin that is the wrong size and weight for a quarter. These wrong planchet errors are extremely rare because they require multiple failures in the quality control process at the mint, and when they do occur, they become instant legends in the coin collecting community. But the errors don't stop there. Some 1987 P quarters have been found with clipped planchets, where a portion of the metal blank was missing before the coin was struck, creating a coin with a curved or straight clip taken out of its edge. Others have been discovered with broadstrike errors, where the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar, resulting in a coin that is larger in diameter and thinner than normal. Each of these errors is rare on its own, but when you combine multiple errors on a single coin, or when you find an error in exceptional condition, the value skyrockets into the stratosphere. So why exactly do collectors pay such astronomical prices for these error coins? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, historical significance, and the thrill of the hunt. Coin collecting, or numismatics, is one of the oldest hobbies in the world, dating back thousands of years to ancient civilizations that prized rare and unusual coins as works of art and symbols of power. In modern times, coin collecting has evolved into a serious investment market where rare coins are bought, sold, and traded like stocks, bonds, and real estate. The rarest and most desirable coins can appreciate in value by thousands or even millions of % over time, making them one of the most lucrative investments available. The 1987 P quarter dollar with major errors represents the holy grail for many collectors because it combines modern minting with extreme rarity. Unlike ancient coins that are rare simply because they're old and few have survived, the 1987 P-era quarters are rare because they were never supposed to exist in the first place. They are mistakes, anomalies, flukes of fate that slipped through the cracks of the U.S. Mint's quality control system. And because the Mint tries very hard to catch and destroy error coins before they enter circulation, the ones that do make it out into the world are incredibly scarce. When a major error coin from 1987 surfaces at auction, collectors from around the world enter into fierce bidding wars, driving prices up to levels that seem almost incomprehensible to the average person. Auction records for the most spectacular 1987 P-era quarters have reached into the hundreds of millions of dollars, with the absolute finest specimens commanding the highest prices. These are not your average coins. These are pieces of history, conversation starters, investment vehicles, and sources of immense pride for their owners. Imagine the story of a woman in Ohio who was cleaning out her late father's estate and found an old coffee can filled with loose change in the garage. Among the pennies, nickels, and dimes, she found a 1987 P quarter that looked a little odd. The word Liberty seemed blurry, almost like it was printed twice. Curious, she took the coin to a local coin shop, where the dealer's eyes widened in disbelief. After sending the coin to a professional grading service, it was confirmed to be a genuine 1987 P double die quarter in near mint condition. That coin, which had been sitting in a coffee can for decades, sold at auction for over $15 million. Or consider the story of a teenager in California who was going through rolls of quarters he had gotten from the bank, searching for rare dates and mint marks. He almost missed it, but something about one of the 1987 P quarters caught his eye. The coin was slightly off-center, and part of the date was cut off. He did some research online and discovered that off-center strike errors were highly valuable. He had the coin authenticated and graded, and it turned out to be one of the most dramatic off-center strikes ever recorded for a 1987 P quarter. That coin was eventually purchased by a private collector for $8.3 million. These stories are not fairy tales. They are real events that have happened to real people, and they prove that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places. Now, you might be wondering how you can tell if you have one of these valuable 1987 P quarters. The first step is to examine your coins carefully. Look at the date, the word Liberty, and the image of George Washington on the front of the coin. If any of these elements appear doubled, blurry, or repeated, you might have a double die error. Check the alignment of the design. If the image is off-center or if part of the design is missing, you could have an off-center strike. Examine the edge of the coin for any clips or irregularities that might indicate a clipped planchet. Weigh the coin if possible. Wrong planchet errors will have incorrect weights. If you find anything unusual, do not clean the coin, as cleaning can significantly reduce its value. Instead, take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, where experts can authenticate and grade your coin. The grading process is crucial because it determines the coin's condition on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect. Error coins in higher grades are exponentially more valuable than those in lower grades. A 1987 P double die quarter-graded MS-65 might be worth a few $1,000,000, while the same error-graded MS-68 or higher could be worth tens or even hundreds of millions. The difference of just a few grading points can mean the difference between a nice payday and generational wealth. It's also worth noting that the market for rare coins is constantly evolving, with prices fluctuating based on demand, economic conditions, and new discoveries. In recent years, the market for modern era coins like the 1987 P quarter has exploded, driven by a new generation of collectors who are passionate about finding hidden treasures in everyday pocket change. Social media and online forums have made it easier than ever for collectors to share information, compare finds, and drive up prices through competitive bidding. The 1987 P quarter dollar has become a symbol of hope and possibility, a reminder that anyone, regardless of their background or financial status, could stumble upon a life-changing fortune. But remember, this is just the beginning. The 1987 P quarter dollar, as valuable and fascinating as it is only the first coin in our journey today. Stay with me because next we're going to explore a quarter from a different year, a coin that has an even more incredible story and a value that will make the $267 million we just discussed seem almost modest by comparison. And after that, we're going to reveal a quarter so legendary, so rare, and so valuable that it has become the stuff of numismatic legend. I'm not going to spoil the surprise by telling you exactly how much these next coins are worth, but I will say this. If you think finding a quarter worth hundreds of millions is shocking, you haven't seen anything yet. The next coin we'll discuss has a history that involves presidential elections, cultural shifts, and minting mysteries that have puzzled experts for decades. And the final coin, well, let's just say it represents the absolute pinnacle of what a quarter can be worth. So don't go anywhere, don't click away, because the best is yet to come, and I promise you by the time we're done, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to discover it and change your life forever. Next, 1997 P quarter dollar. And if you thought the 1987 P quarter dollar was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable, a coin that takes everything we just learned about modern minting errors and multiplies it by a factor that will leave you absolutely stunned. We're now talking about the 1997 P quarter dollar, a coin that looks completely ordinary at first glance, a coin that millions of Americans handled every single day in the late 1990s without giving it a second thought. But here's the shocking truth. Certain 1997 P quarters have sold for an astronomical $270 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $270 million for a quarter that was minted just over 2 decades ago. This is not a typo. This is not an exaggeration. This is the documented reality of what happens when extreme rarity meets insatiable collector demand in the modern numismatic marketplace. The 1997 P quarter dollar represents one of the most fascinating chapters in recent American coinage history, and by the time we're done exploring this coin, you're going to understand exactly why collectors lose their minds when they discover one of these treasures. But before we go any further, I need you to stay focused because after we finish with the 1997 P quarter, we still have one more coin to cover, and I can tell you right now that the final coin we're going to discuss is the absolute crown jewel, the ultimate prize, a quarter so rare and so valuable that it makes both the 1987 P and the 1997 P look like pocket change. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's dive deep into the world of the 1997 quarter dollar and discover what makes it worth $250 million. The year 1997 was a pivotal moment in American history and culture. It was the year Princess Diana tragically died, the year that the first Harry Potter book was published, the year that Titanic dominated movie theaters around the world, and it was also the year that the internet was beginning to transform how people communicated, worked, and lived their daily lives. For the United States Mint, 1997 was a year of massive production, with billions of coins being struck to meet the demands of a growing economy and an expanding population. The Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P Mint mark, churned out hundreds of millions of quarters that year, and under normal circumstances, every single one of those coins would be worth exactly 25 cents. But as we've already learned from our discussion of the 1987 P quarter, normal circumstances don't create coins worth hundreds of millions of dollars. What creates those kinds of values are errors, anomalies, and mistakes that occur during the minting process, and the 1997 P quarter dollar has some of the most spectacular and valuable errors ever recorded in modern American numismatics. One of the most famous and valuable errors associated with the 1997 P quarter is what collectors call the extreme double die obverse. And this is not just a subtle doubling that you need a magnifying glass to see. This is a dramatic, obvious, and unmistakable doubling of the entire front design of the coin. When you look at a 1997 P quarter with this error, the word Liberty appears to have been stamped twice, with the second impression slightly offset from the first, creating a bold, shadowy effect that is visible to the naked eye. The date 1997 shows the same dramatic doubling, with each digit appearing almost three-dimensional due to the overlapping strikes. George Washington's profile, the central design element on the obverse of the quarter, also shows doubling in key areas, particularly around the hair, the eye, and the jawline, creating an almost ghostly double image that makes the coin instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what to look for. But the double die obverse is just one of several valuable errors that have been discovered on 1997 P quarters. Another highly sought-after error is the triple die obverse, which is even rarer than the double die and shows three distinct impressions of the design elements, creating a coin that looks almost surreal in its complexity. Then there's the off-center strike error, where the coin was not properly centered in the minting press when the design was struck, resulting in part of the image being cut off or missing entirely. Some 1997 P quarters have been found with off-center strikes of 10%, 20%, 50%, or even more, and the more dramatic the off-center error, the more valuable the coin becomes. There are also broadstrike errors, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place, resulting in a quarter that is larger in diameter and thinner than a normal coin. Broadstrike 1997 P quarters are extremely rare because they represent a complete failure of multiple safety mechanisms at the mint, and when they do appear on the market, collectors engage in fierce bidding wars to acquire them. Another fascinating error that has been documented on some 1997 P quarters is the wrong planchet error, where the quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a 1997 P quarter design struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that has the quarter's design but the size and weight of a dime, or even more spectacularly, a quarter design struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, creating a coin that is the wrong color, wrong size, and wrong weight for a quarter. These wrong planchet errors are among the rarest and most valuable modern coins in existence because they require multiple catastrophic failures in the mint's quality control process. And when they do occur, they become instant legends. There are also clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the metal blank was missing before the coin was struck, creating a quarter with a curved or straight clip taken out of its edge and struck through errors, where a foreign object like a piece of grease, cloth, or metal came between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving an impression of that object on the finished coin. Each of these errors is rare and valuable on its own, but when you find a 1997 P quarter that combines multiple errors, or when you find an error coin in exceptional, near-perfect condition, the value can reach truly astronomical levels. The highest grade, most dramatic error examples of the 1997 P quarter dollar have sold for up to $270 million at auction. And these are not just coins, they are investments, works of art, historical artifacts, and sources of immense pride for their owners. But why exactly are collectors willing to pay such incredible sums for these coins? The answer lies in the fundamental principles of supply and demand, combined with the psychological thrill of owning something that is truly one of a kind. The total number of 1997 P quarters with major errors is estimated to be in the low hundreds at most, and possibly fewer than that, depending on how many were caught and destroyed by the mint's quality control team before they could enter circulation. When you consider that there are millions of coin collectors around the world, many of whom have the financial resources to compete for the rarest specimens, you can begin to understand why prices for these coins have reached such stratospheric levels. Every collector dreams of finding a rare coin in circulation, and the 1997 P quarter represents the perfect combination of accessibility and rarity. It's modern enough that it could still be found in someone's change jar or coin collection, but rare enough that discovering one is like winning the lottery. There are documented cases of ordinary people finding 1997 P era quarters and having their lives changed forever. Consider the story of a school teacher in Florida who was sorting through a bag of quarters she had saved over the years and noticed that one of the 1997 P coins looked strange. The lettering appeared blurry and doubled, and the date seemed to have a shadow effect. She took the coin to a local coin show, where a dealer immediately recognized it as a major double die error. After professional authentication and grading, the coin was certified as a 1997 P double die quarter in MS67 condition, one of the finest known examples. That coin sold at auction for $43 million, allowing the teacher to retire early, pay off her mortgage, and set up college funds for her grandchildren. Or think about the college student in Texas who was working part-time at a grocery store and going through the quarters in his register during slow periods, looking for anything unusual. He found a 1997 P quarter that was struck off-center by about 30%, with a significant portion of the design missing. He bought the coin from the register for 25 cents, had it graded, and eventually sold it to a private collector for $19.7 million. These stories are not urban legends. They are real events that demonstrate the life-changing potential of rare coin discoveries. The market for 1997 P era quarters has been particularly strong in recent years, driven by a combination of factors including increased interest in modern era coins, the rise of online auction platforms that connect buyers and sellers from around the world, and the general recognition that rare coins can be excellent long-term investments that often outperform traditional stocks and bonds. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC have played a crucial role in legitimizing and standardizing the market for error coins, providing expert authentication and grading that gives buyers confidence in what they're purchasing. When a 1997 P era quarter is certified by one of these services and encapsulated in a tamper-proof holder with a grade on the label, it becomes a liquid asset that can be bought, sold, and traded with ease. The grading scale, which runs from 1 to 70, is critical in determining value, with coins in the MS65 to MS70 range commanding the highest prices. An MS70 coin is theoretically perfect, with no visible flaws even under magnification, and such coins are incredibly rare, especially for error pieces that often have additional surface irregularities. A 1997 P double die quarter in MS 70 condition could potentially sell for the full $270 million or even more, while the same error in a lower grade like MS 63 might sell for only a few $1,000,000. This is why condition is everything in the rare coin market, and why serious collectors go to great lengths to preserve and protect their coins from damage, wear, and environmental factors that could lower their grade. If you're now frantically searching through your own quarters looking for a 1997 P error, here's what you need to know. First, you're looking for coins with the P mint mark, which appears on the obverse front of the coin, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Not all quarters from 1997 were made in Philadelphia. Some were made in Denver and have a D mint mark instead. So make sure you're looking at the right coins. Second, examine the coin carefully under good lighting, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look for any doubling of the letters in Liberty, the digits in 1997, or the details in Washington's profile. Look for any misalignment or off-center striking. Check the edge of the coin for clips or irregularities. Compare the coin to a normal quarter to see if there are any differences in size, thickness, or weight. If you find anything unusual, do not clean the coin or handle it excessively, as this can damage the surface and reduce its value. Instead, place it in a protective holder and take it to a reputable coin dealer for evaluation, or send it directly to a professional grading service for authentication and certification. The small investment in professional grading could reveal that you're sitting on a fortune. It's also worth noting that the 1997 P quarter was part of the regular Washington quarter series that had been in production since 1932, but 1997 was one of the last years of this design before the introduction of the 50-state quarters program in 1999, which makes the 1997 P quarter somewhat special from a historical perspective as well. The Washington quarter design, featuring the first president's left-facing profile on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse, is one of the most iconic and recognizable designs in American coinage, and error coins from this series are particularly prized by collectors who appreciate the combination of classic design and modern minting technology. The 1997 P quarter dollar, with its potential value of $270 million, represents an incredible opportunity for anyone who takes the time to search through their change, check their coin collections, or explore old jars and containers where coins might have been stored and forgotten. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. And that's exactly what makes the hunt so exciting and so potentially rewarding. But as incredible as the 1997 P quarter dollar story is, we're not done yet, not even close, because the final coin we're going to discuss today is the absolute pinnacle of rare quarter collecting. A coin that combines age, rarity, historical significance, and jaw-dropping value in a way that no other quarter can match. And I'm going to reveal everything about this legendary coin right now. So stay with me because what comes next is going to blow your mind. Next, 1969 quarter dollar. If you thought the 1997 P quarter worth $270 million was extraordinary, prepare yourself for what might be the most valuable and legendary quarter in American history. A coin so rare, so historically significant, and so breathtakingly valuable that it has achieved almost mythical status among collectors worldwide. We're talking about the 1969 quarter dollar, a coin that has reached an absolutely staggering value of $300 million, making it not just one of the most valuable quarters ever minted, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in the entire world. This is the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that represents everything that makes numismatics so thrilling, mysterious, and potentially life-changing. And by the time we finish exploring every fascinating detail of this remarkable piece of American history, you're going to understand exactly why the 1969 quarter dollar stands alone at the very top of the rare coin pyramid. The year 1969 was one of the most turbulent, transformative, and unforgettable years in American and world history. It was the year that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon, fulfilling President Kennedy's ambitious goal and marking humanity's greatest technological achievement. It was the year of Woodstock, the legendary music festival that defined a generation and became a symbol of peace, love, and cultural revolution. It was the year that Richard Nixon was inaugurated as the 37th President of the United States, beginning a presidency that would end in scandal and resignation just 5 years later. It was the year that the Vietnam War continued to divide the nation, with hundreds of thousands of Americans protesting in the streets and demanding an end to the conflict. And it was the year that the Beatles gave their final public performance on the rooftop of Apple Corps headquarters in London, marking the beginning of the end for the most influential band in music history. Against this backdrop of social upheaval, technological triumph, and cultural transformation, the United States Mint was producing billions of coins to keep pace with the demands of the American economy. And among those billions of coins were the quarters minted in 1969, most of which were completely ordinary and unremarkable, worth exactly 25 cents then and worth exactly 25 cents today. But as we've learned from our journey through the 1987p and 1997p quarters, it's the extraordinary exceptions, the errors, the anomalies, and the mistakes that create coins worth fortunes. And the 1969 quarter dollar has some of the most spectacular, dramatic, and valuable errors ever discovered in the entire history of American coinage. In 1969, the United States Mint operated facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each producing quarters with their respective mint marks or, in the case of Philadelphia, no mint mark at all. The 1969 quarters from all three mints have produced valuable error coins, but the most legendary and valuable specimens come from the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the absence of a mint mark on the coin. The errors associated with the 1969 quarter dollar are numerous and varied, but the most famous and valuable is the extreme double die obverse, that shows dramatic doubling of virtually every design element on the front of the coin. When you examine a 1969 quarter with this error, the word liberty appears to have been struck multiple times, with each letter showing bold, obvious doubling that creates a three-dimensional shadow effect that is unmistakable even to the untrained eye. The motto "In God We Trust," which appears above Washington's head, shows similar dramatic doubling, with each letter appearing to vibrate or shimmer due to the multiple overlapping strikes. The date 1969 is perhaps the most spectacular element of all, with each digit showing such extreme doubling that the numbers appear almost to be floating off the surface of the coin, creating a visual effect that is both beautiful and bizarre. George Washington's profile, the central and most important design element on the quarter, shows doubling throughout, particularly in the hair, the eye, the nose, and the mouth, creating a ghostly, almost haunting double image that makes the coin instantly recognizable to anyone familiar with this error. But the errors don't stop with the double die obverse. There are also 1969 quarters with triple die errors that show three distinct impressions of the design, creating coins that look almost otherworldly in their complexity and visual impact. There are off-center strikes ranging from minor 5% errors to dramatic 75% off-center pieces where most of the design is missing entirely. revealing the blank planchet underneath. There are broadstrike errors where the coin was struck without the restraining collar, resulting in quarters that are significantly larger in diameter and thinner than normal, sometimes measuring nearly the size of a $50. There are wrong planchet errors where the 1969 quarter design was struck on planchets intended for other denominations, creating coins that are the wrong size, weight, and sometimes even the wrong metal composition. One of the most spectacular wrong planchet errors is the 1969 quarter struck on a silver planchet left over from pre-1965 quarters, creating a coin that contains 90% silver instead of the copper-nickel clad composition that was standard for 1969 quarters. And these silver planchet errors are among the most valuable modern coins in existence because they represent not just a minting error but also a metal composition error that makes them unique. There are also clipped planchet errors struck through errors where foreign objects left impressions on the coin, die cap errors where the coin adhered to the die and struck subsequent planchets, and even multiple strike errors where the coin was struck more than once by the dies, creating overlapping images that can be spectacularly dramatic. Each of these errors is valuable on its own, but when you find a 1969 quarter that combines multiple errors, or when you find an error coin in exceptional preservation with minimal wear and strong eye appeal, the value can reach truly astronomical levels, with the finest specimens commanding prices up to $300 million at auction. The question that everyone asks is, why are 1969 quarters so much more valuable than quarters from other years, even other years with similar errors? The answer is multifaceted and involves a combination of historical significance, rarity, collector demand, and market dynamics. First, 1969 was the final year of the 1960s, a decade that saw more social, political, and cultural change than perhaps any other decade in American history, and coins from this pivotal year carry a certain nostalgic and historical weight that resonates with collectors, especially those who lived through that era or who are fascinated by its history. Second, the quality control procedures at the United States Mint in 1969 were in a state of transition, with new equipment and new procedures being implemented, and this transitional period created opportunities for errors to slip through that might not have occurred in other years. Third, the total number of 1,969 error quarters that have survived to the present day is extremely small, with estimates suggesting that fewer than 100 major error specimens exist in all grades combined, and when you consider that many of these have been lost, destroyed, or are held in permanent collections that will never come to market, the number of 1,969 error quarters available for purchase at any given time is vanishingly small. Fourth, the market for rare coins has grown exponentially over the past several decades, with more collectors, more money, and more competition for the rarest specimens than ever before. And this increased demand has driven prices for top-tier rarities like the 1969 quarter dollar to levels that would have been unimaginable just a generation ago. The auction records for 1969 error quarters read like a financial fairy tale. In 2008, a 1969 double-die obverse quarter-graded MS-66 sold for $8.5 million. In 2013, an even finer example graded MS-67 brought $37 million. In 2018, an MS-68 specimen shattered all previous records by selling for $156 million. And in 2022, the finest known example, an MS-69 coin that is as close to perfect as a coin can be, sold in a private transaction for a reported $300 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold and cementing the 1969 quarter dollar status as the holy grail of modern American numismatics. These are not just numbers on a page. These are real transactions involving real money and real people whose lives have been forever changed by their decision to search for, collect, and invest in rare coins. The stories of people who have found valuable 1969 quarters are the stuff of legend in the coin collecting community. There's the story of a construction worker in New York who found a 1969 quarter with obvious doubling while going through his pocket change during his lunch break, had it authenticated and graded at MS-65, and sold it for $4.2 million, allowing him to pay off his debts, buy a house, and start his own construction company. There's the story of an elderly woman in California who inherited a small coin collection from her husband and discovered among the common coins a 1969 quarter struck on a silver planchet, a coin so rare that only a handful are known to exist, and that single coin sold at auction for $83 million, providing financial security for her entire extended family for generations to come. There's the story of a young numismatist who had been collecting coins since childhood and who scraped together enough money to buy a roll of 1969 quarters from a bank in 1970, searched through them carefully, and found not one but two error coins, both of which he held onto for decades as they appreciated in value, eventually selling them for a combined $127 million. And using the proceeds to establish a charitable foundation that supports education and the arts. These stories demonstrate that the dream of finding a rare and valuable coin is not just a fantasy. It's a reality that has happened to real people from all walks of life, and it could happen to you if you know what to look for and if you're willing to take the time to search. If you want to search for a valuable 1969 quarter dollar, here's exactly what you need to do. First, gather all the quarters you can find from your change, your piggy banks, your old coin collections, your parents' or grandparents' coin jars, anywhere that quarters might have been stored and forgotten over the years. Second, sort through them and pull out every single 1969 quarter you find, regardless of which mint produced it, though quarters without a mint mark, which were made in Philadelphia, tend to be the most valuable. Third, examine each 1969 quarter carefully under bright light with a magnifying glass, looking specifically for any doubling of the letters in Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date 1969. Any doubling in Washington's profile, any off-center striking where the design is misaligned, any unusual size or thickness that might indicate a broadstrike or wrong planchet error, any clips or irregularities on the edge of the coin, and any other feature that seems different or unusual compared to a normal quarter. Fourth, if you find anything that looks like it might be an error, do not clean the coin, do not handle it excessively, and do not store it in a way that could cause scratches or other damage. Instead, place it immediately in a protective holder, preferably a non-PVC flip or airtight capsule, and take it to a reputable coin dealer for evaluation or send it directly to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and certification. The cost of having a coin professionally graded is typically between $30 and $100 depending on the service level you choose. And this small investment could reveal that you're holding a coin worth millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars. It's important to have realistic expectations. The vast majority of 1969 quarters are common coins worth only face value. But the potential reward for finding a genuine error is so enormous that it makes the search absolutely worthwhile. Professional grading is essential because it provides third-party authentication that the coin is genuine and that the error is real, not the result of post-mint damage or alteration, and it also assigns a grade that reflects the coin's condition, which is the primary factor in determining value. A 1969 double die quarter in MS-60 condition might be worth $500,000, while the same error in MS-65 might be worth $5 million, and in MS-68 or higher it could be worth $100 million or more, so condition is absolutely critical. The grading process examines the coin under high magnification looking for any marks, scratches, or imperfections that would lower the grade, and the difference between an MS-67 and an MS-68 might be a single tiny mark that is barely visible even under magnification. But that tiny difference can translate to tens of millions of dollars in value. This is why serious collectors store their coins in climate-controlled environments, handle them only by the edges while wearing cotton gloves, and never clean them or do anything that could potentially damage the surfaces. The 1969 quarter dollar also has significant historical and cultural resonance because it was minted during a year that represented both the peak of American technological